Hello? Is it on? Hello? Oh, okay. Let me just try to get it to... Okay. I don't have to... Much better. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I am audible. My name is Mantombi Nkosi, and I will be your facilitator for today's session. There is someone that's going to do the official welcoming and opening of the session. And I'm just going to call her before I say too much. I don't want to be welcoming and opening the session when we've got Yvonne, the director of the Forge. So with a round of applause, can we just welcome her as she comes and gives us welcome.
Amandla manithathela ithuba ndizibulisele kuye wonke umuntu okhoyo. Good afternoon. Elami igama ndinguYvonne Phyllis. I am the director of the Forge. Ndiphiwe ithutshana elincinci ukuba ndizanamkela. I've been given an opportunity to welcome you here to this program. Apha ke at the Forge, usually kwindawo ezininzi they say, "Hayi makenze akhawuleze." But for us, the welcome is very important. My own grandfather used to say, "Mntanam ukuhlala nokuhamba komntu kuxhomekeke ekubeni umamkela kanjani." Whether a person stays or leaves depends on how you welcomed them. So I would like to welcome everyone here to the Forge. So I'm going to do two things. One is to talk a little bit about the space and the project, and the other just to appreciate the work for Sandile and the day. So iForge Indoni. So we have two spaces. So this space and then the bookshop just across the road. Igamale bookshop is the commune bookshop. And the project is supposed to be a space for progressive culture, for thinking together from Pan-African socialist, feminist, and other progressive perspectives. We work closely with a wide range of left organizations, including community groups, social movements, trade unions, and we do this work through a number of ways. Book launches like today, public conversations or dialogues or talks, various kinds of cultural work, poetry, music, exhibitions, documentaries, and we hope that that work bridges communities and the work of communities together. And we hope that we are able to be in solidarity with one another across our various works and struggles. In fact, the reason why we're here namhlanje is because Gifense and Sandile Memela attended one of our monthly programs, the Political Revival. And we spoke after that program, and we are here namhlanje. So we'd like to thank Gifense and Sandile for today. Namhlanje, we have the honor of being a home for yet another conversation on Comrade Mzala Ngumalo. The first was in April, and we launched the book by Professor Mandla Hadebe, titled The Lost Prince of the ANC, The Life and Times of Jabulani Nobleman Mzala Ngumalo, 1955 to 1991. This was held at the Commune Bookshop. And it is another honor, yet again, to be the home of the launch of yet another book of Comrade Mzala. The title of the book, namhlanje, is Comrade Mzala, A Cousin in the Struggle, by Sandile Memela, published by Book Tourism. I'd like to take a moment to appreciate the work and congratulate Obut Sandile Memela ndicela bethuna nindi join as we say congratulations on the book. I mean, this is important. The moment is important. This moment is very important because it is yet another opportunity for us to learn about the revolutionary intellectual and critical thinker that was Mzala, and the very resilient spirit ka Mzala Ngumalo. Also, I'd like to appreciate the work. It's important because it shows a commitment to recovering and excavating our histories and telling our people's stories. It is a reminder of the importance of learning from those who have come before us and adapt those lessons to the world and the context we live in. And as I go to sit down, ndinike u-MC wethu indawo yakhe, I'd like to quote a few words from a historian that we've worked with in the past, because I think those words really bring out the work that you do in this book, Sandile, the work of recovery and excavating. That also we are not a people that is only immersed in just struggling, but we're a people immersed in resilience and fighting against our oppressions and exploitations. And it's important that we reflect both all of the experiences that we go through. So here I'm going to read. To do the work of recovery is to look back in order to understand the present, but not for nostalgia or romanticism, but rather to turn to history, to look for the best moments of humanity, when despite absolute oppression and exploitation, we worked to overcome these difficulties, to build towards a better, more just, more liberated, truly equal, and truly democratic society. Moments in history when the most dispossessed struggled for a better world, a new world. And in South Africa, we have no shortage of such examples. And namhlanje, we are reminded of that spirit, that resilient spirit, that young activist, that intellectual giant, and that critical thinker that is Mzala Nobleman Jabulani Ngumalo. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much for that lovely, powerful welcome about today's session. So I would like to just call upon our panelists to come forward and take their seats as I call upon our first performance. So today is not a typical review where we just gather, talk about the book. We've tried to twist it up a bit, you know, and we've invited Umandisa as she comes forward to just open the session with a lovely performance. Whether she's going to sing, I'm not sure. She said she's going to surprise us. Whether it's poetry or what, I don't know. But she's just going to open the session for us with a lovely performance. So Mandisa, as you come forward, can we also have our panelists to also come forward. Can we have Prof. Mzala Khadebe also come forward?
Sanibonani. Niyaphila. Nami ngiyaphila. My name is Mandisa Vundla. I wish I could sing, but I am a poet everywhere I go. And we love that poetry is in this space. We see the podcast that's coming. We are excited for it. So I just released a spoken word poetry album that features the people who can sing. And it's titled A Love Song for Miriam Makeba. And I released or created the album as like an ode or a thank you note to her, because there's a time when my work was really transitioning to just like poetry and open mic and to being really notable, and people were calling me all kinds of scary things, and it was very difficult for me to actually name myself in that way, body activist, body feminist. I'm like, I'm just a poet, I just want to do poetry, you know, like you complicate things, it's just too much pressure. And I stumbled upon an interview where she said, you know, when her work was being called political, and she said something along the lines of, you know, she doesn't write about politics, she writes about the struggles of her people, and fundamentally that's the place that I create from, and then you intellectuals can call it whatever y'all want to call it, but it's poetry. So she's carried me through and affirmed the work that I do, the way that I do it, and the body of poems that I archive in this album are poems that I feel like she lent courage, you know, just through her voice, to get me to finish those poems and to say what I need to say. So I titled the album A Love Song for Miriam Makeba. And I'm going to open with a poem for A Love Song for Miriam Makeba, which features Uzu of Love Glory. You can play it. Miriam, forgive us for not remembering you. Mazi, forgive us for losing sight of your work. Makeba, forgive our memory for losing sight of you. Mazi, forgive us for forgetting your legacy. Miriam, forgive us. I am trying to remember you now. Dear Miriam, I am holding the keys to your songs in my hands. I know you opened the world with a mouth full of teeth clinging to the border. You held the click of our bones in the twist of your tongue. You electrifying song, burning through skin and bone. When you sing, salt water seeps through your throat, sterilizes our bones, soaks all our stones, and all our blood returns with a pulse to its people. You made music like you were making a war cry for its mother tongue. Though home was a distant wounded storm, you sang for the hurricane gushing through our bones. You gave noise a quiet voice for grieving, a gentle blues for the descendants of a noose, for jumping jacks, for kings and queens of solitaire. I hope you rest in the music you gave. Our country is still a bleeding tune. We do not sing the way we sang along to you, Mazi. You may be gone in the song of bone and the music of drying flesh. Your organs may have stopped playing. Your body is mute, but the music hasn't stopped breathing for you, Miriam. Forgive us for not remembering you. Mazi, forgive our memory for losing sight of you. I remember you now. I see you now. I hear you now. I know you are here. Forgive us. Thank you.
That was beautiful. And can we just give her a round of applause again? That was beautiful. I was tempted to also create my own poem and say, Mzala, forgive us for not writing so much about you. Everyone should know about Mzala. But that was lovely, and thank you very much for that. We will be getting more performances from Mandisa today. Quite excited about that. Now, without any further waste of time, we're going to go straight to the purpose of today, which is, of course, to launch a book, a Comrade Mzala, a cousin in a struggle. But first I want to just call upon Leslie from the ORTSoL, who's going to tell us the purpose of the event, but also tell us a bit about the school, what the school does, etc. And immediately after that, we'll then go into the official launching of the book. Leslie, can you please come forward? Can we also give her a round of applause as she comes forward?
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to speak after such a powerful string of women. It was really special. Thank you. Also, thank you to the director of the Forge, because everything you've said about the space that you've wanted to create here is exactly what the Tambo School of Leadership is about. But we do it through education. So the coherence of what you are doing and what we are doing is so perfect, and it seems so appropriate that we should be doing what we're doing here today. So the Tambo School of Leadership, and I heard the other day somebody call it the Tambo School of Excellence, which we took with great pride, has been established precisely because we feel that education and political education is such a crucial component of our ability to change and forge a just society. Our leaders that have preceded us have always been aware of how powerful education is. And one thing that has distinguished our movement from many other movements is the deep respect that we've had for being intellectuals. Not just being intellectuals, but understanding the power of understanding our society, understanding our environment, and then being able to act on it. And I love the fact that we are standing in the presence of Patrice Lumumba and Frantz Fanon, and of course, OR Tambo, who all appreciated just how valuable education is. And I want to pause quickly on the word education. We are a school of education, not a school of indoctrination. And the reason that that's very important is indoctrination, if you break it into its roots, into its Latin roots, indoctrination is about leading information into you. It's about imposing information. And what we are doing when we educate is we are leading what's inside of you out. Ex duce, lead out of. And that's the power of education. It gives you the tools and the understanding of what is happening around you and allows you not just to understand it, but very importantly, to be able to act upon it. So when you understand and when you act, that's when you have integrity. And we are also standing here today because it is OR Tambo month, and that is part of what we are celebrating. And I think Tambo understood very, very strongly the power of education, the power of being able to understand with your mind so that you can act with your heart. And that integrity, understanding and acting, the two together give you the integrity that OR Tambo so beautifully embodied. So this is why we're here. This is what the school does. Our website outlines all the modules that we have. But our fundamental belief is that you have to really understand where you are living. You have to understand the struggles in order to be able to act. It's no good just acting, because your acting may not have the results that you want it to have. And this book, thank you so much for writing it, Sandile, inspires us to know that as young people, you should be able to claim your space and to act. And as a school, we are saying, act with knowledge. So thank you very much, and thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. It's also quite I'm loud now. It's also quite interesting to note that actually Mzala died. When he died, he was busy with a biography, right, of Tambo. I think, Prof, you'll correct me if I'm incorrect, but he was actually writing. He was very fond of Comrade OR, and they actually share a birthday. So yesterday was both OR Tambo's birthday and Mzala's birthday, which is quite lovely. So I am told that the fourth panelist is here. Can they also just make their way to the front swiftly as we officially open the session? So the session is a very calm. Anyone is allowed to ask about the book. I know that there are people that are here that have already read the book. So if you have questions around the writing or Comrade Mzala, you are more than welcome to pose those questions. It's quite an open session. You don't have to have a particular political jargon to participate in the discussion, not at all. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. So I'm going to hand over to Comrade Sandile. But first, I want to introduce him officially, but also introduce every panelist that is seated here. And I'm going to need my phone, Comrade Gifense, to do that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So Comrade Sandile, of course, is the author of the book. Just going to quickly go to where I'm supposed to... Yes. So Sandile is a well-known journalist, novelist, cultured critic, and public servant. He is reputed to be an intellectually provocative columnist and writer who worked for the City Press. He helped found the Sunday World in 1999, where he specializes in arts writing. So I'm just going to end it there. He's got a very big profile. There's a lot I can say, but he's the author of the book that we're currently reviewing today, which is of course titled Comrade Mzala, A Cousin in the Struggle. Comrade Sandile, and then after Comrade Sandile is Prof. Mandla Khatebe. I do want to mention that we also reviewed his book. I think we were the first, Comrade Prof, please, I hope you're telling people that we were the first to review his book in Orlando before it was even officially launched. And I was actually introduced, Mzala was introduced to me through the Prof's book. I did not know about Mzala until I got a chance to read that particular book. The Prof is an associate professor in the Department of Strategic Communication and currently holds the position of director at the Center for Data and Digital Communication at the University of Johannesburg. So I'm also going to end it there, but he's also the author of The Lost Prince of the ANC, which is a book that we've also reviewed. Also an extensive biography of Comrade Mzala. Welcome, Prof. And then on my left is Leslie Dikeni. No, sorry. And then we've got Leslie, who is the curriculum manager of the School of Tambo. And my apologies, I did not get our third panelist's biography from Comrade Sandile, and that's because of you. But I think you'll be able to introduce yourself when we start the discussions. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our panelists as well. So now we're just going to go straight to the discussions and the purpose of today's session. So Comrade Sandile, I think everyone who attends a book launch or book review, they would always want to ask very typical questions to say, what inspired you to write the book? Particularly to write on Comrade Mzala. What inspired that?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Am I loud? Audible? Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Chair. Question that you've put to me is one of the most difficult questions for an author to respond to. I've always felt that we should
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. I've always felt that we should tell our own stories to write our own history. I've dedicated my life to being a journalist, where my job is to go out there, interview people, experience their reality, and reflect that back to society. So storytelling is a mirror that reflects a society back to itself. It's interesting because I must confess, I did not know Comrade Mzala, never met him, but I read an article in Sicha by an ANC publication written by Eddie Maluka. And I was amazed and my soul was stirred by the fact that within the liberation movement, there are critical thinkers who are intellectuals and can actually challenge authority from inside. I think there's people in the house who can talk better about how it is like to be a member of an organization, a movement, because we know the culture of hlala phansi ubambe umthetho. But for me, what made Mzala outstanding was that uphakathi uyawubamba umthetho, but he's got that courage, that intellectual resilience to question authority in the movement. And Professor here writes at length about what that means. And we also know, now that the movement is back, what it means to be inside and to ask questions. And I wrote about him because I felt that we don't know him, we need to know him. And I was first introduced to him in 1991 and only started writing the book in 2016 and finished it only last year, and we went into production. And I must say that I'm not the only one who wrote the book. That's why Mpumelelo Ndlovu, who illustrated the book, is also here, and I see him as a co-writer. So simply put, Montombi, I wrote the book because I believe that we should celebrate the life of our icons. We should reintroduce them back into society. And of course, we should tell our own stories and in the process, write our own history. And as you yourself have alluded, I think it's very important for young people to know their heroes, their true heroes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bab Sandile. You know, when I read the book, I got the sense that it was for young people. I think the entire story was dedicated, or rather channeled towards educating young people about Mzala, but not only about Mzala, the material conditions that we find. There was also the issues of class struggle there. It was quite an interesting book. So this I'm going to give over to Mpumelelo because you're the co-writer. Just give us briefly, without giving away too much, because people must buy the book. So if you tell us too much about what's in the book, then we won't buy it. So just give us briefly, tell us briefly about what the book is about, and how was it writing the book? And sorry, and what's the most surprising thing that you learned about Comrade Mzala as you were writing the book?
Hello, everyone. I'm not used to talking like this, so if I don't do it well, please forgive me. Books and well, books and being just intelligent. What's the word? The word you used. It was intellectual. Yes, I'm not very intellectual. You know, I'm just an artist, but I'm also one who cares about the rights and the wrong and how things should be. And I see around myself a whole lot of neglect towards the things that should be important. People don't see it as important anymore. And meeting Sandile, who, well, he has better words than me. He has more words. But when he speaks of the injustice, or the, you know, the struggle, like I feel he can put it into words what I feel or what I think. So meeting him was nice, and the book was amazing. I didn't know Comrade Mzala before I read the book, but through reading the book, I was amazed at the courage the guy had, and how young he was, and the accomplishments, and well, it's said that he died in exile, but I think not knowing that, like, until I read the book, I felt a bit ashamed, or I felt, you know, what we should be doing more. We should be knowing guys like Comrade Mzala, Jabulani Nxumalo. We should be mentioned more. Guys like when I read about him, I thought, wow, there's probably more people like him that we don't know, and why don't we know them? And why should it be such an effort to? Why should it be an intellectual to know him? You know. So meeting Sandile was nice. We've done a few other things as well, and I'm just looking forward to doing more with him as a means to, you know, making things better, or just balancing the scale. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is a teaser, right? I agree with some of the things that you're saying, with everything that you're saying. So I delivered, and I'm telling you the story, ne? Because you're saying people must know about Mzala. So I delivered a book to this other friend of mine, ne? And she says to me, "Oh, I'm so excited. I think people should be right. Everyone must know about Comrade Mzala, you know. And you know, can I confess? Can I be honest with you?" And I say, "Yeah, you can." And she says, "I had the biggest crush on Mzala. I don't know whether it's because of the writing, whether he was an avid reader and an intellectual, or his look, I don't know. But all I know is, once you've actually been introduced to Comrade Mzala, you will definitely be like that friend of mine who has a serious crush on Mzala. So thank you very much for that." So, Prof, you've also written an extensive book on Comrade Mzala. And I'm quite interested on what you thought of this fictional book on Mzala. I think for me it was quite, okay, but no, let me give it over to you. What did you think of, I hope you've had a chance to read it. What did you think of the fictional book on Comrade Mzala?
Thanks for the opportunity. Good afternoon to everyone. I haven't read the book completely. I've skimmed through it, but I think it's important that you must congratulate Sandile for putting out the ideas about Mzala and the important, iconic figures of our liberation struggle. And let me just connect a few things that I think are important about Mzala, and that is why this intervention is very important. And I think that if you look at how you open the session today, beautiful rendition by Mandisa, it speaks to who Mzala was. Mzala was a very artistic person. At the age of 12, Mzala was a published poet. Before he got to high school, his poems were taught in high school while he was still in primary school. He published in the anthology with 2 professors. Very interesting. But also Mzala performed poetry, but also he was a singer. Sang in, not just in church, but he performed, he played a piano. He was a very good dancer. So Mzala was very artistic. He expressed himself artistically beyond just writing and being an intellectual. So I think that's, for me, is an aspect that is very important to understand, that when you then begin to do these interventions, that is very important to share Mzala in a simple way with everyone else. But also the presence of OR Tambo, and Mzala admired OR a lot. And when OR is one of the last people Mzala saw before he died. That is why OR wrote a very touching letter to be read in Mzala's funeral, because he couldn't travel because he was not well. Mzala had started, he was going to the US to write a biography after finishing his PhD in London, to write a biography on OR Tambo. He had done a lot of work, and when he was in hospital, he asked his wife Mpo to skip, basically discharged himself from hospital so that he could see OR Tambo. That was his 2 weeks here on Earth, because he wanted to see OR a lot. One of the things to follow the theme that Mandisa tells, I'm forgetting the word you used, but what would have disappointed Mzala is the lack of the ability to accept dissent, especially in institutions that are associated with OR Tambo. Mzala had, Babalas will tell you, Mzala was, because he spent time with Mzala in Swaziland. Here he is, one of the, actually got arrested when Mzala had sent them to the country after telling his friend that, basically stole a car from his friend to give it to them to come and do some underground work in the country. Mzala was a very, held dissenting views to an extent that many people feared for his life, yet OR always defended him. I'm saying that therefore Mzala will be disappointed by the lack of ability of the movement to take dissenting views. When the school of OR, school named after OR is unable to take dissenting views about the movement, the state of the movement, the state of the country, is what Mzala would have been greatly disappointed about. Because that's who he was up until the end. Mzala is one person who will stand up in meetings and differ with very respected leaders. And I think one of the people who talk about that is former President Zuma will tell you how Mzala challenged him as one of their commanders. So I think for the youth and for this country to know such people, we have to write such books. So this intervention is very important. It might be a fiction intervention about who Mzala was, but it is critical to understand these people who stood for, we would not be sitting here if it wasn't for that generation, the 1976 generation, the young people who skipped the country at the age of 16, 17. Imagine what were you doing at 16, 17? These people were escaping the country to liberate us. So it is absolutely important to locate that generation through such writing. There are so many of them, you're correct, Mantombi. That there are so many, or was it you, Memela, was saying there's quite a lot of them that nothing is not said about them. Because it is through these people that we can reconnect and re-correct our paths, because the movement is not in a good space where it's supposed to be. So it is through that connection, and we can only connect by writing this book. Sorry for that long-winded response, but I think we need to give Sandile a big round of applause for this intervention.
I totally agree, and in fact, as you were speaking, Prof, I was just thinking of how the book is so well written and very simplistic for those who've read the book. One is able to understand the book, and it's an easy read, you know. And I want to come to you, Leslie, because you're the educational. You're the curriculum manager of the school. Why do you think it's important for us to be writing, or for people to write books in a manner that this book is written? Very simplistic, but also tries to touch on quite a number of things, because I found that it was not just about Mzala, but it was about the current state of the movement, the country, the inequalities that we find ourselves in. So why is it important that we have a fictional way of telling stories, or rather, telling the situations of our country. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great question. I want to say it's not a simplistic book. It's told simply, and the reason I'm distinguishing is that it's so complex and so simple, and that's what makes this book such a fantastic asset to all of us. Sandile himself said that the book is about storytelling. So he chose specifically to tell a story. He didn't write facts and figures. And facts and figures are important. They underpin a lot. But by storytelling, he takes us on a journey. He takes us on not just a fact and figure journey, but an emotional journey that we can all resonate. And he does that simply, not simplistically. And what's so powerful about storytelling is it's not just the story of one individual, but it's the story of so many people. And that's why the book is so powerful, because as you are journeying along with Mzala, you are also understanding other people's journeys and hopefully reflecting on your own journey. And the point I want to emphasize as an educationalist is not just to go on those journeys, but to go on those journeys so that you yourself act in a way that contributes to a better place for all of us. So we're looking at hardship, we're looking at challenges, we're looking at frustrations and disappointments, but we are also looking at inspiration. An opportunity for us to have gone on that journey, to have thought about those things, and then to say, so what can I do about it? What actions can I take? And I think as an educationist, those are the things that we're always looking for. The knowledge combined with the action. And that's what makes this book and all similar kinds of books that tell these stories so important to all of us. I hope that answered.
It did, it did. And I also learned English, simplistic and simply, you know. But thank you very much. It's long, but so, Sandile, why did you, because now I don't want it to be a discussion among the panelists. We also want to have our audience to, form part of this discussion. Why did you choose to write a fictional book on Mzala? Why not a fact? What did you say, Prof? Facts and figures. Why not facts and figures? Why did you choose it to be a fictional book?
Now, we all live in South Africa, and one thing that we will recognize is that in South Africa, if you tell a story of what happens here, it sounds like fiction. Our truth is stranger than fiction. So I thought that would be the best approach to tell the story of Mzala in a fictionalized manner, which will make people ask themselves, is this true or is it not true? And yet when you read this fiction, you will relate and identify with it, because much as we call it fiction, it's torn from the pages of our own lives. It's something that we experience. When you read about Upolisa, who is accompanying the protagonist, Tumangaliso, on this journey to visit Umalume in the suburbs, and have fears about crime, about men, and moving from the townships to the suburbs. When you read that fiction, Mantombi, you'll ask yourself, is it really fiction? Because what I set out to do was to fuse fiction with faction. so that people can identify and relate with the story. That's the answer that I can give. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Now that you're speaking about the characters of the book, I really, really enjoyed reading about Upolisa and Mange. Oh, and the Muzi character. I think we've got many Muzi's characters, even in the movement, actually. So I want to now open it up for the audience. If you've got a question that you want to ask, maybe the title, why say a cousin in a struggle? If you want to ask about the contents of the book, if you've had a chance to go through and read the book, so this is over to you. But I want to start with Comrade Mzala. I know that he's read the book and he's got quite a number of questions, or rather opinions, but we are taking hands. Comrade Mzala, as people also raise their hands, over to you. You can stand if you want to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Comrade Ntombi. Long live the spirit of Mzala Nxumalo, long live. Thank you for this opportunity. And congratulations, Comrade Sandile, for joining this very growing list of comrades who are honoring this intellectual giant. I think it's very important from the perspective of the African National Congress to preserve his legacy, particularly from some of us who are involved in political education. These are type of initiatives and the school and the book clubs that are so critical in helping us to shape the kind of leadership that we want to see dominating the thinking in the African National Congress. And I think that the perspective that you took is a very exciting one, because coming back to what Leslie was saying, simple, simplistic, it appears simple, but I think that the underpinnings are slightly more complex than the actual story. And I was saying to Ntombi that it would be interesting to get some insight from yourself about your portrayal of sort of the intricate dialectics of gender and class that manifests itself in different characters, particularly with Muzi and his behavior and how that success is perceived, and how you've characterized it in the book. What we know as black middle class, what is the kind of perception which I think your imagination was leading us to around that, because I think there's a lot to be said about the class contradictions that exist as we speak today. And I think what intrigued me was that you were raising the challenges that are emanating from this new dispensation. So corruption, and indeed the party itself, is not what it used to be. So some of the ills that we are faced with today are emanating from the challenges that we face today. So I think for me, those are very interesting part of the book, which I want you to share some insights about. And I think that the Prof is also correct to say, in looking at the two, the fiction and the story that introduces this intellectual giant, we need to debate more. We need to open up spaces for debate. I think that we have a tremendous challenge, particularly from an ANC perspective, that can allow us to stifle debate. There's been a culture, I think, in the past that we must debate until we emerge with consensus position, not just from a school's perspective, but the ANC in general, at different structures, at different levels. And I think that when we speak about an intellectual giant like Mzala, that's the best way to honor his legacy. That's the best way to preserve his legacy, is that we must create that environment that allows intellectual expression without suppression and win each other over. about finding the solutions that are going to take this country forward. So those are my just few remarks, Comrade Mzala, as you open the sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Sandile. Do we have any other opinion? I just want to read something Comrade Wandile had asked me to. Should I read it? Your favorite? Okay. Not necessarily favorite, Ma'am Sandile, but I just want to. But before that, are there hands? So if you have a question, a comment around the book, the title, the author, if you want to get to know the author, still allowed.
Greetings to all. My name is Rizin. I think I have two questions to the panel. The first one is, when you look into chapter 12, there is a debate around these two schools of thoughts in the ANC. One is the workerist, and the other one is the nationalist. In the current environment where we are today, the debate was, the workerists were accusing the nationalists to say, if these nationalists are to take over the ANC, the working class will no longer be represented by that nationalist leadership, because the nationalist leadership will develop elitist tendencies. And this elite tendency will then distance the working class from the organization. And from what I'm looking at is what is happening today. At the same time, the nationalists are accusing the workerists to say these workerists, once they take over the organization, the ANC will be dominantly led by the working class. And this working class will then absorb the trade union, will then absorb the Pan-Africanist. And as a result, the ANC will no longer be the same. But then come Mzala to say, in fact, you need the Pan-Africanist such that there must be billionaires in Africa who will take over the industries in Africa so that the working class in the whole continent can be able to find employment. So based on what I've said, I want to check with you as to, is there still a debate between these two tendencies of nationalist versus the workerist in the organization? Second question, which is the last one to all of you, is, if you look into chapter 8, it says that Mzala was part of those who were assisting the formulation or the establishment of cells. Because cells is more like you group three comrades, they become a group discussions. Every now and then, they will have a discussion because they are part of that cells. So part of the debate in the ANC that it has degenerated isn't because we have disallowed the cells to continue in the movement. Because if you look into the debate that was taking place at the cells level, was even bigger and better than having a branch. I thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Reason. I'm not sure who's going to take, because the question was directed to the panelist, not necessarily the author, but I'm going to give it to the author first, if you just want to have a bite on some of the comments and questions that were raised.
Thank you. The portrayal of Umuzi as a typical township guy. He drives a BMW, he owns a small business. He's got a sense of entitlement when it comes to women. He just believes that he can do what he will with a woman. And I portrayed him the way that I did so that we reflect the typical township male attitude to women. Look yourself in the mirror. Is that what you do? And if it is, what you gonna do to change your behavior and attitude? And then the class divide. It's something that we live with. There is the townships, there is the migration to the suburbs. And when you've moved out of the township, you grow or develop this superiority complex. Should it be that way? And then, of course, there is the issue of corruption. In a money-driven society, we all want the money by any means necessary. And it's what is leading to the disintegration of the oldest liberation movement in the history of Africa. Is that what we should be proud of? And then there is the issue of cells. I think it's always important for us to organize ourselves into little groups, even if it's at home, in the office, in the community, just to share ideas and promote the culture of debate and discourse. So these are issues that I raise through this fictional story that is torn from the pages of our lives, our reality, our history. And then the other academic questions that demand serious intellectual rigor, I'll leave to the professor. And then Mpumelelo, who actually illustrated the book, because it's very important for the story to also be told in pictures. He too will maybe come in and speak to the process of illustrating this story. Over to you, Prof.
Thanks. Let me, I don't want to, I think it's about you today, but let me just make quick reflections about Mzala's scholarly and intellectual interventions were mainly on the resolution of the national question. I think that's what he wanted to understand. And at the heart of that resolution question, of that national question, which, by the way, remains unresolved in South Africa, he understood that to deal with both the national and the class struggles concurrently, you have to build socialism. So he believed that without socialism, we'll not be able to resolve the national question, the material base. And I think that the easiest manifestation of the unresolved national question today is to look at the Springboks that we'll be supporting tonight. It will give you a sense of the unresolved national question. And you cannot resolve it through emotions, sports emotions. You have to deal with the material base. You'll have to deal with the land and the commanding heights of the economy to resolve the national question. You can't resolve it through sports and everything else. So that's what Mzala was really interested in. And he clearly understood that to do that, you needed to wage the struggles for self-determination, the national liberation struggle, but the motive force of the struggle will have to be the working class, not the workerists. But the working class that understands the importance of the national liberation struggle, so that as a basis upon which you can then build a socialist struggles. In 1984, he writes a very interesting piece. Actually, it's a book where he deals with on the Azanian Manifesto. That's why it deals with the workerist tendencies, because it problematizes that. So I think for me, I think that's how we should understand Mzala's from that perspective. But also must understand that Mzala existed and operated in a different time. I don't think he had an opportunity to participate in when the movement was unbanned. He was before he escaped the country, when he was still a member of the PCM, when he was a member of SASO on campus. They were operating as underground cells for obvious reasons. So when he was in London, in the Communist Party, again, it was underground cells. So, but I think that for me, that difference is very, very important. I don't think he had an opportunity to participate where there are PGMs and PBGMs and lack of quorum and all the sort of dynamics. So it will be unfair to try to speak for him. But I think your understanding of cells, I think, is a correct intervention. That's how naturally you have to organize. Thanks.
Thank you, Prof. Mpumelelo. Prof. Sandile instructed us to.
Okay, the Comrade Mzala book was like my third book. Well, I didn't have much experience in like illustrating books. I'm just an artist, and but the book was the most the most powerful thing, the most powerful book I was part of, and through reading the book, when I read, I don't know if everyone's like that. When I read, I see pictures, like, or when someone talks, I can listen to them for a long time because I don't find them boring because I turn their story into pictures and like it's a movie now in my head. So when I was reading the book, I was seeing pictures and I was given instructions of what to show, but I was given liberty to, you know, express myself too. And well, it took a long time, but I needed to show what was in my head. So yeah, I'm glad that I was able to complete that, and that Sandile was also impressed by the work and got published and everything. And yeah, I'm proud of us. Proud of us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to respond from an education perspective, and I want to appreciate both Wandile and I didn't catch. Reason's comments. And thank you, Prof. You've put your finger on it. It is about the national question. And the only way we can have a debate, the only way we can challenge and debate so that we can reach consensus is if we understand the issues. And that's why the OR Tambo School is so committed to political education. It's not education for itself, but how can you possibly contribute to the question of the national issue if you don't know, if you don't understand the issues at hand? And so political education is absolutely critical, as it was then, as it is today, because we haven't resolved them. And so, Wandile, your point about discussion, debate, challenging and consensus is premised on understanding. And again, I'm going to say that's why the school plays such an important role in providing that political education, precisely so that we can do what you're suggesting we need to be doing. Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much. And he was such a reader. I mean, where did Mzala get the time to read? Like, he read so much, you know.
Social media.
Oh, there was no social media at the time. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. The work we have to do to make time for reading, but we should. So we're going to break a bit with a performance. Oh, there's a question. Can I take it after? Can we just have Mandisa also give us a small piece, and then we'll continue on with the discussion. Over to you, Mandisa.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on the stand.
Okay, I don't know how.
I think I can just, there we go. Okay. Mother, I have come to collect your spirit from the gutter, where your marriage has left you for dead. I am returning your body parts back to their original language. They do not come from Latin. You weren't derived from Greek translations, but you remind me of the goddess, patron of Athens. Your name begins with a capital city in a village like Eden. Eve is just a farm girl carrying holy water on her head with a bucket from the valley of the shadow of her death. She lives hand to mouth, scrapes sense to build her paradise. The land of milk and honey requires money. Apples are expensive, not deadly, and Eve sometimes sells them for less. Downtown, Babylon, Johannesburg, where churches stand on our promised stolen lands, my people raise their hands like the Bible holds them under arrest. Anything you say will be held against you on Judgment Day. But we're judged every day by the color of our sin. Our skin can't repent for being black. Mary is a domestic worker scrubbing floors with Jesus on her back. He is washed in our blood. We were crucified so he could live a privileged life. We were never saved. Apartheid was born again at the altar under Christian names like Joshua, Jesus, and James. Where art the apostles? Ayanda, Lulama, Tisetso, Mpho. Thy will can't be done on earth because thy heaven don't teach black pride to our prodigal sons at birth. Church is a placebo effect. A scripture a day doesn't keep the hunger away. What scriptures do we believe in before Christ? How many of our gods have been crucified on their cross? We've all been sacrificed in the name of our fathers who walked out on their creation to serve the Spirit in beer bottles, calling on Moses to testify that the burning bush is a holy herb and we must all smoke. He is high on heaven, believing Armageddon is the end of the world, when it is the end of the world inside our souls that makes us bow our heads to the Lord, believing why Jesus can save black souls, because he died on the cross. Biko died in police custody. He left a verse in the hands of the oppressor. The most potent weapon is the mind of the oppressed. Deliver yourselves from evil. You are the answers to your prayers. So Bukwe died for a clause, so you could remember the power and the glory in your name, because they failed to give it back. Preserve the black in your body like ink to a history, deserving the truth. The biggest hell is that of self-doubt. Heaven is a place where we go to relearn to love ourselves. My mother is a verse that reminds me of self. Tato Tweu 1 verse 2 said, "Let there be light in our hearts." So she raised us like pyramids. We are growing synagogues here to worship at the house of her cathedral. Her body is my temple. I was made in her image. I have bedroom eyes at the windows of her soul, where she sees right through me. When they say Jesus is coming, tell them my mother is already here. When her spirit comes down, I pray in mother tongues, Wema, ngikuhlabela lenkondlo usaphila nami. Mother, I am slaughtering half my lungs to give you all my breath in the names of our black gods that never rose from the dead. I will believe in white Jesus when he comes back bearing Biko on the cross, and we can bow our heads to that.
Whew, Mandisa. Whew. You know, Mandisa. Mandisa, you know, Leslie would pronounce it Mandisa. That was lovely. That was lovely. I feel like I'm in the political revival. Where's Yvonne? Don't you feel like, you know? I'm just reminded of an event they held, which was the political revival. Mandisa, you want now us to engage your poem, because now you are provoking us, but it's fine. So I'm going to open it up again for a round of hands. I did see a hand from Pudmandla, Kifense. Yeah. And one at the back. Kifense, can you please take the mic there?
Hi, Mandla Baloyi here. I've just got a question. You know, it's from the marketing side and the promotional side of things. Is this book, Sandile, going to be available to the countries where Comrade Mzala was in exile, including the place where he was born, where he can be celebrated, like the way, you know, today we're celebrating Abosia with Amapogopogo. So also with him, the kids from his area and the other places, whereby they can also learn something from Comrade Mzala. But that's it.
You can come to the front.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Afternoon, everyone. I just came late, but I got here and there. But I read the book. That's what gave me courage to come forward. Okay, my name is Daniel Ditsero. What I've read about in a book, I learned about Mangi, Muzi, and Polisa. They were young people who were inspiring, and they were looking for role model. And I think they find the role model in Uncle Joe, and then they have to go to him in Midrand. I think someone talked about fiction, but it cannot be avoided because by the time I think the author wrote the book, the Mzala has died, I think was not there, if not mistaken. But I can be corrected on that one. So I think this is the right thing which we should look at. We should try and encourage young people to become like Mzala and to become like Polisa, to desire to have knowledge and to use it at the same time. I think I have learned about something called Black Snake also, which I would like the author to try and explain to us what it means. If it means corruption or if it means state capture or whatever, yeah, then I think we need clarification on that one. But I really enjoyed the book. I've got more to say, but to save time, I will stop here. Thank you very much for everything, the author, and thanks for everyone.
Amandla. ETA, Youth League ETA. Are you here? You guys are so stale, eh? Bob Sandile, thank you for this brilliant work that depicts the lessons of Comrade Mzala within the context of today. And I think for me, that's the key takeaway, that it is a relatable history, right? And the fact that you put two young people there, Mangi and Polisa, who then meet a character called Uncle Joe. And this is where the heart of my question is. To say, including to the prof and everyone here, right? To say, where are the Uncle Joes of today in the movement who are not corrupting young people? Because part of the problems we have in the political landscape of South Africa, not just the ANC, the entire political landscape, is that you have these old people who some of them deserve to be in the positions they find themselves in. But instead of playing a mentoring role, most of them use the privilege as a result of the positions of responsibility. I'm not sure if they realize sometimes that actually they are positions of responsibility that they occupy to actually use young people to sustain that power that comes and the privilege that comes with those responsibilities, and in the process, corrupt these young people's thinking, pit them against each other, you know? Then you find that then there is some bishop somewhere who's supposed to be an Uncle Joe, who's supposed to plant the seed in order to influence these young people to become agents of change. But then he's using them for his own ulterior motives in order to sustain that power of privilege. But extrapolating this question, and now to the Prof more directly, where are the Uncle Joes in the intellectual landscape of this country, in the intelligentsia, in the scholarship? Because what we find, and as the OR Tambo School of Leadership, we're trying to respond to that gap. It's where you find the intellects, the scholars and the academics. They have their noses in the books, but sometimes they are unrelatable to the general masses. The facts and figures. That's what they're most concerned about. And those things sometimes are not relatable. But also as a result of the distance that exists between themselves and the masses, the enlightenment which they carry is not translated to the enlightenment of broader society, right? Whereby, even as we see the number of doctorates growing, but the rate at which the country is developing is not showing that, right? And we cannot just blame it on the politicians. Where are the activist scholars who are supposed to be critical, not only from a research perspective, but also engaging with the masses, agitating for these ideas so that the Mzalas, right, can be able to be reproduced through these intellectual Uncle Joes. So I think I would leave it at that and say, thank you so much, Bob Sandile, for bringing this to the fore in a way that you have done. Because when I read the book, I'm inspired to buy it for my younger brother who's in high school, because I know he will understand what you are talking about. And to all of us, and the Forge as well, to say, you need to create more of these spaces, and we need to see more of these faces so that we, like Uncle Joe, can start planting the seed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kifense. I think Wandile and I would disagree with you a bit about this Uncle Joe character. And I just want to squeeze in the question, or do you want to take it, Wandile? Yeah, take it, and then they'll...
Yeah. Well, I think the Uncle Joe story is interesting because there's an element of hypocrisy to some extent, because here's this senior cadre who was part of government, now is out of government, he's consulting, but with his most precious time, he decides to go to a very privileged school to impart knowledge instead of going, Tommy was saying, but why didn't he go to Soweto or Alex? Why is it that he decides that he goes to the privately owned, funded, well-resourced institution to impart such important knowledge? So that was one of the issues about understanding how to best situating. To say, these Uncle Joes, as much as, of course, he has a wealth of experience, it had to take a trip from the township to the suburb, but his environment seems to be confined within a particular class. And that's where I suppose the question really came from, about your imagination around Uncle Joe. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Over to you, panelists. I'll start with you, Bob Sandile.
Well, thank you very much. I find the questions very deep. Idinkale ngawe Bob Mandla and about the availability of books and what the plan is. I think we've got to be agents of what we want to see happen in the country. We want to see books that we have written which are about us being prescribed in schools. The first question would be, where are those books? They must first be available. The long-term desire, vision, or dream is ukuthi the next phase would have Mandla going to the Department of Education to municipalities that are named after Mzala and talking to them and saying, here is a book, can we buy in bulk for it to be given to families, to school libraries, to youth clubs, and of course to schools, with the aim to establish book clubs. And this is what I'm going to do with my colleagues from my school. We're going to get these books, donate them to our school, open book clubs, and begin that Uncle Joe interaction with the youth in the school in Diepkloof that produced us. So, Mandla, it's a mission. One other thing is this book is available in, for now, 2 retail outlets, and that is Book Circle in Melville, 27 boxes, and Bridge Books. What most people are not aware of, if you put a book into exclusive books, without negotiation, whatever the price is going to be, they want 50% of that. And then they will direct you to their own book distributors who want 40% of that. You're left with nothing. That's why writers in this country continue to die as paupers. And I've decided to be an example of someone who will not hesitate to sell his book from the boot of the car. And that's what I'm ready and willing to do. Now, the snake symbolism. I guess it's because of my township background and maybe lack of understanding of what snakes symbolize. Zikhona ezinye izinyoka ezifikayo ekhaya, kanti izinyoka, snakes that bring the ancestral spirits, and we kill them because we don't understand as urban African people what snakes mean. We just see something that is poisonous, venomous, that will kill you. So in the book, I use the snake as something that is poisonous and can likely kill a person and an organization. As to whether that what happens with all snakes, I guess the cultural experts can delve deeper into it. Then there is the issue of Uncle Joe visiting a private school to speak to the kids there. He doesn't come from the townships. The kids from the townships have got to travel to this estate that he lives in. What we forget is that all kids are South Africans, and Uncle Joe has entered into this ideas exchange, culture exchange with the school. That's his own way of plowing back into the community. And it's correct to say the school is privileged, but who says the kids in privileged schools do not need political education, insightful information that will in some way shape and influence their character? And then the issue of Uncle Joe, Mantombi and Wandile, yeah, it's quite complicated, where we depict what you may see as the hypocrisy of the leadership. People, I think if I look at South Africa today, it looks like everybody's struggle is as an individual and a family to make yourself as comfortable as you can be in this oppression, in this exploitation, in this injustice, in this inequality. Everybody is looking after themselves. Uncle Joe is an example of such a character. But while he does what he thinks is best in terms of plowing back to the community. And then Leslie earlier spoke about simplicity and simple. And of course, this is where Prof will pick it up. I wrote the book the way that I did so that anyone can read and relate to it. And I'm very much aware that if you write in academic language, you lose a lot of people. We've got to make our history, our knowledge, whatever information and stories accessible. This is a book that may look like it's targeted at the youth, but it's a book for all South Africans. It's a book that can ignite a conversation between kids and their parents. And that's the idea, because it's to contribute to national discourse and debate where everyone can feel confident to participate and contribute. I hope I've addressed some of the questions that were thrown our way, and I'll hand over to the Prof.
If I can briefly add to what you have said, I think the first point that is important is that Mzala belongs to, in my view, Mzala belongs to the world. He should not be confined to, he belongs to the working class. I think he's a hero of the working class, because if you look at his story is relatable. And it represents a generation that stood up to confront injustices. But I think that the important point, Sandile, you are raising is on the political economy of publishing. I think it's a very important point, that one of the things that we need to do, we need to confront, and again, you are not going to be able to resolve that until you deal with the material base. The control of the means of production, because it is those who control that are able to fund the books that they want to fund. Go to exclusives, you'll see you'll find that they are funding the books that they want to promote. So the political economy of knowledge production and the need to decolonize knowledge production, I think, is a very important point that you are raising. To the question that was posed by me, I think that we should turn the question around and say, why is the ANC not producing intellectuals like it used to do? Because if the ANC could produce Abu Mzala and many other intellectuals, why is it not producing them now? But Mzala gives us the answer. And I think that we should go back to that answer. He writes an article in, I think it's in Schaba, titled How the ANC Was Revived by the ANC Youth League. And he goes back, goes there, he raises some of the points. Let me just quote some of the things he says. Of course, in this article, he was celebrating the 70th birthday of Oliver Tambo. And he says in this article, almost all of his prominent leaders, he's talking about the prominent leaders of the ANC Youth League, the founders of the ANC Youth League, with the exception of Walter Sisulu, had either a completed matric or had been to university. That's the leadership of the Youth League in 1946. He goes on to say, then he talks about Lembede. It says Lembede, considered by many the most daring thinker and dynamic personality of that generation of young leaders, died in 1947 at the age of 33 after obtaining a BA, LLB, MA degrees. At the time of his death, he was working for a doctorate in law and was able to speak seven language fluently. So the point is that in 1946, the ANC could produce this type of leadership. Where are they today? Part of the problem is that when intellectuals in the ANC bring other intellectuals debates, you want to shut them down, like the Tambo and the ANC done when David Masondo brought Ibo Mandazi. That's a culture we must resist, because scholars and academics will not want to come and be subjected to that. So they will sit in their ivory towers instead of being linked to the movement. The movement must produce scholars. There are a number of opportunities. There's an institute that was set by Comrade Blade called the National Institute for the Humanities and Social Sciences. That institute has produced, in 4 years, has produced almost 1,000 PhDs. And every time when the call is out, you go to ANC Youth League branches, you go to YCL branches, you go to SASCO branches, you cannot find comrades who want to do PhDs. And then the movement will then stand up and want to blame academics. The movement must produce young people like Tambo, like Lembede, who in 1946 were willing to study and confront the situation through education. These were the leaders who were able to change the leadership of the ANC and revive the ANC, which up until the time was a moribund organization that believed that the only way to fight for liberation in this country was to go and negotiate with the Queen. These youngsters came and say, that will not help us resolve the national question. If the ANC is going to revive itself, it has to go back to 1946 and find young people who will be able to stand in meetings and raise questions and not be shut down. Thanks, Program Director.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure, Leslie, from the school, if you'd like to have a bite. We have officially come towards the end of our discussion session. But of course, if Leslie, you just want to have a bite on what has just been said. And I think the book actually does touch on this. I think Polisa and Mangi, constantly ask Uncle Joe that, does the movement create a space for objective thinkers, intellectuals, and so this is quite an interesting a debate, Comrade. Prof touched on something. I was like, hey, Prof is escaping now. But Les, do you want to?
No, I wouldn't want to dilute the.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, no, let's not.
Of dissent, if or not, you see, Mzala was very heretical. And I think we must allow Babalas to talk about it and tell you how almost to the, I think he'll say it better than me, but give him a mic. He'll tell you how Mzala was able to stand up in front of leadership and confront it. And that leadership did not shut him down. Actually allowed it, and that's how the ANC was able to grow out of those debates. By shutting down dissent and ideas, you are not going to be able to correct. The ANC is in trouble as we speak. And what we do is shut down debates. That can't be. Intellectuals are not going to come to that space. They won't come to PGMs where they will be howled and be shut down. So we need to create spaces to engage robustly.
You're ambushing me, Prof. My name is Mr. Bulunga ngoba ngimdala kunandla. So I think there's one thing we need to also just to understand, that the ANC of today is totally different. And the circumstances are also totally different. And the people that are active today in the ANC, it's totally different. It's unfair for young people to say, do what we did when we were young. We never asked permission, that's one thing. Mzala never asked permission. Even though we were of the same age, he would argue the point and we go and sleep. He will wake up in the morning and say, hey Mzala, that point, I've changed my mind. And you will be annoyed and he will be very, sometimes irritating. Even within the formal structures, there was no permission asked. It goes beyond. Chris Hani himself was one time almost killed by the ANC because they didn't ask for permission to contribute in the struggle. The difference between then and now is that there is career involved. there is therefore something different. We came from where I didn't know about the leadership in the ANC, I think, until 1991. I had never spoken about leadership, who goes what and this and that, from 79. So when Mzala one time said to the leadership, "Wayibeka ngesiZulu." Can you hold it?
Okay.
What's leadership? Ibeka izandla phezu kwamasende balinde dead corpses from the front line. I was hoping the food. Wathi leadership ibeka izandla phezu kwamasende balinde izidumbu from the front line, and nemali they use it to build pyramids. In other words, people are not preparing to go back home. That was almost like suicide position. Because I don't think leadership has changed how the leadership is. It's a question of the young people not asking permission to liberate the country. You take risks. Chris Hani took huge risk when they came from prison. Huge risk. He was sentenced to death by the senior people that he should be killed because they refused to ask permission so that we do the struggle. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, no, you're quite correct. The material conditions are totally different now. But that topic of asking permission, asking for, waiting for the green light is a topic for another day. So I just want to read, because we have officially come to the end of our discussion. We did anticipate to end at 2 o'clock, but because we had started slightly late, we profusely apologize as well for that. So we're going to end at exactly 2:30. I'm not sure what time it is now, but exactly 2:30. 20 past 2. Okay, we have 10 minutes. So I want to just read a passage before I call May Eunice from Book Tourism to do our vote of thanks. But I just want to quickly read this passage, and I think this is something we should just take. Oh, yeah, the prof is asking me, you're not calling Mandisa back? No, prof, Mandisa is going to close the session for us, the way she opened the session. Hey, Mandisa. So we're definitely calling Mandisa after the vote of thanks to just close off the session for us. So this is the passage, and it reads as follows. I think there's a number of favorite passages, but this for me, I think is something that we should take at home. It says, "You see, we need thousands of Mzalas who will give us the inspiration for us to use our brains, to read widely, and to love and cherish each other as brothers and sisters, and to vanquish humanity to this country," Uncle Joe said, rapidly looking at us. So basically, we need thousands of Mzalas. And the more Mzalas we have, the better the movement, We'll kill that snake, Bab Sandile. We will definitely get rid of the snake that's really trying to do away with the movement. So May Eunice, as you come forward, because I need to give enough time to Mandisa. May Eunice, over to you to do our vote of thanks. I'm not sure if it's adjusted well for you.
Thank you, Ntumi. Yeah. Right. Mine is a very easy task. because you are just expected to say thank you and hand over gifts. But just to give a context of how appreciative Sandile and myself are for this event and the effort that went into making this a success, I thought I must just read something that Sandile wrote as a book resume for both books, Comrade Mzala and the other one that we'll be launching in a month's time. And Sandile wrote and said, "The purpose of my work is to produce literature that will make society aware of inherent injustice and thus inspire people to do something if they will, to create the society they want. Above all, to remember the fallen miners," because now he's talking about, it's 2 books now. Above all, to remember the fallen miners who were an example of men of conviction to fight for their constitutional right and thus be agents of the change they wanted to see. My wish and dream is for the titles to be read widely to stimulate debate and discourse about the status quo. It will be appreciated for relevant stakeholders like the mining companies, trade unions, NGOs, and municipalities, amongst others, to purchase the works in bulk. This would be a wonderful gesture to initiate self-healing programs where literature is used for therapeutic purposes. It is only when we understand how we got to be where we are that we can offer solutions. And I've known Sandile since 2012. I met Sandile through Victor Mekwamere. Thank you, Victor. I always tell Sandile that we were destined to meet, because before then, I never knew Sandile. Na akiba tuba batsibang dinto. Ke motho ignorant. Kore ke tshwana le auswaka osmung kutlwa are language ya qualificationing mararki ignorant. So until then, Sandile, until Victor wrote an article in 2012 and paired us together. Victor So I had written a book, June 76. Sandile was also launching his book related to the youth as well. And coincidentally, Victor profiled us together. And then I saw that he had a book launch, so I went to the book launch and I introduced myself, and we found the synergy. And thank you for that. Since then, we've done beautiful works, Sandile. Just to show you, Victor, Sandile. Can you check Sandile in my files? We actually have 11 titles that are ready. And then out, yeah. And then out of the 11, this is the 4th title. So we are really, really appreciative of this. And to this end, I'd also like to give this to Okai Mantombili Kifense. I'll think on her. Kitolifadi certificate, le passes. Le passes. So I never met Mantombi until today. Sandile brought us together. It was an intergenerational, collaborative mission. The old woman was 70, how old am I? 76, I think. 67, and the young. We pulled this off without knowing each other. Sandile just gave us instructions how to navigate this, and we did it. So older people can work well with younger people. And I want you to put this in your desk as a reminder of what we can do to raise leaders in a country. Then I have nicer gifts as well for Dr. Professor, and then Yvonne. Yvonne, if you can come over. Yeah, but I'm just going to use my natural voice. Yvonne, with me, if you guys can just stand here next to Sandile, Arfedi gifts. Yeah. Mpumi, if you can, yeah. Prof.
Do we all stand up?
Yeah. We must receive the gifts from Sandile. Yeah. Then.
Who's this for?
The four of them, Yatla?
Share.
Yeah. No, sharing. Yeah, the others are coming. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yvonne, bottle of wine. Hope you won't get too drunk. Thank you very much.
Yes. And then Pumbe.
Professor, thank you very much for coming through.
E1.
And enriching this event. Yeah.
Right. And then Pumi,
For me, a gift for you in the absence of.
Kisa di packets three.
And thank you very
And
much
then-
for the beautiful illustrations you did on the book, man. Yeah.
And then our readers, Bakai the readers, sir. One delay,
Reason.
le reason,
Yeah.
one delay, okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Here, one delay.
Wandile, thank you for taking the time to read the book and give us your critical perspective. Greatly appreciated, man. Hey, Jack.
And then reasonably.
Same thing to you, Reason. Thank you for taking the time to read the book and give us your feedback.
And then what about the thing? I'm not sure if they said one.
No,
higher.
give it to you one.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
Fell inside.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you. And for the rest of you, Lunali, you are getting the best gift. I cooked for you. So, and I said, so, skela banaga baba diwai. Thank you.
Thank you so much, May Eunice. I love my certificate, but I'm not sure, May Eunice, maybe you think I'm too young for the other gift, but I'm not so sure. But I'm not that young, May Eunice. Thank you very much for the gifts. Thank you to everyone. I'm just going to call Gifense to do 1-minute announcements, and then Mandisa, you were requested immediately after Gifense, over to you to close our session. Thank you very much to everyone that has come and joined us. Please do not leave without getting khemer lidi kuku, but there's also, I think you can smell, the traditional food, so please make sure that you grab something to eat before you leave, but also buy the book. Gifense, over to you.
Amanda, we're going to buy books, Sanger. We're going to buy books, Sanger. Yeah, forward with Comrade Mzala, forward. Forward with buying the book, Comrade Mzala, forward. Yes, there's a reason why we do this book launches. The speeches are, by the way, want people to buy books. So the first announcement is that Tate Sandile will be there to sign your copies. The books are sold at the back. I'm sure you can even inquire about more of his work. The price, and then the second thing is that obviously the Forge is a home. It's not just a space, it's a home. Every time I've been here, you don't leave without eating. So kas Africa wa itse ho yetile go hire ntsha le di plate tsela tsa go run dividing tsela. So ga jelo re ntshitse di plate tsela tsa go run dividing kwa lutlwile kgemere le dikuku di teng and a nice meal. So what's going to happen is that we are just going to plead that after the performance yaga Mandisi, then we'll go row by row. Ausu Utor director, please just go to her. I know we're hungry and it smells nice, but let's just have some order. And then in terms of eating, you can eat outside. But just be careful that when you're using your phone, you hold on it tightly because babanglo wana batlile mzulo, you know. But secondly, let's be responsible and not mess up the place. So eat. We'll make sure that we create where you can throw your dirty plates after eating. But if you see a dustbin, please put it inside a dustbin. And I think lastly is just to say, Mom Eunice, there's a person we forgot to acknowledge, which I think is important. In fact, 3 people that I would just like to acknowledge. Nyasha, thank you very much for working with us throughout this organizing. Piladi up there, the sound person, thank you very much for the work that you have done. There is Henry there. So Henry is making sure that people can see you on YouTube and Facebook live. And maybe it's important to also acknowledge those who have joined us on YouTube and Facebook. So I just thought those names are important to mention because they played a critical role. And of course, there's Deko there who has brought young people from Deep Slot. So thank you very much, Nopala, for that. Thank you very much, Mantombi.
Mandisa, over to you. Oh, you need your mic. Do you need some? Oh. Okay, let me try and move.
And I'm wrapping up. It's a wrap. Thank you so much to Bra Mandla Baloyi and the Miriam Makeba Foundation for bringing me here to join you guys, to play with you guys. I catch the news of your death the way wood catches a fire with your body before it is burnt. You are somebody's daughter, returning to ash before returning home. I keep meeting women for the very first time as passengers of death, as still images taken before their last breath, as dying proof for the living, that the shallow hearts of men can love you into a grave, that the head of your home can lay you down as a headstone, loving you in memory. When a man says he wants me, I don't know if he wants me dead. Men choreograph their rage so beautifully on our bodies. The post office is an opened envelope sealed with blood. You do not know if the parcel you are sending is your daughter to her grave, if the funeral procession will replace her graduation day, and to what degree. Dismembering her body is also cutting short her dreams. Being black and woman at the same time is a magnet for danger. Everywhere we glow. Dreaming while black is a revolution delayed. Dreaming while black woman is a revolution denied. A dream with soiled hands and sinking feet. A body broken like a promise safe couldn't keep. We are chasing our dreams whilst being chased on the streets. We are reaching for the stars while someone keeps reaching for our bodies at home, at work, at school, at play. Dreaming while black is a revolution delayed. Dreaming while black woman is a disappearing act. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you deserve that gift, Mandisa. Thank you very much once again. We have officially come to the end of our session. I think the DJ can also start playing some nice feel-good music. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the Forge. It's a lovely space. So as we had been instructed, those who have books and want them to get signed, they can just come this side, and you can buy the books just outside, just before the door there. But in the meantime, let's mingle, let's go have food, but orderly. Can we just have the first 3 rows go first, and then we'll just go ganjalo, ganjalo, ganjalo. Amandla!